The anomaly appears. The Deep Space Monitoring Station Omega-7 had been quiet for 3 standard cycles. Too quiet, according to Admiral Keth Zorian as he reviewed the patrol reports from his flagship, the Zephyrian Dreadnought Stellar Dominion. The outer rim sectors were supposed to be under total Imperial control, yet something felt wrong. His silver-scaled hands drummed against the command console as he studied the holographic display, showing their current position near the edge of the Helix Nebula. "Admiral," called Navigation Officer Tess from her station, her young voice cutting through the bridge's ambient hum. "We're receiving an anomalous signature on long-range sensors. Something big just dropped out of hyperspace in Sector 9 Alpha." Zorian's reptilian eyes narrowed. Nothing was scheduled to arrive in that sector for another 2 weeks. Classification? Tess's webbed fingers danced across her console, her expression growing more puzzled by the second. "That's the problem, sir. It's not matching any known vessel types in our database. The energy signature is unusual." "Define unusual, officer." "The ship appears to be constructed from primitive materials. Basic iron-carbon alloys, chemical propulsion systems, even what looks like liquid cooling lines. But, Admiral, the power output readings are off the charts. Whatever's driving that thing is generating more energy than our main reactor." A chill ran down Zorian's spine. In his 40 years of service to the Zephyrian Empire, he had encountered rebel factions, rogue AI constructs, and even the occasional space pirate, but nothing that defied easy categorization like this. The Empire's technology was the most advanced in known space. Their sensors could identify a grain of sand from 1,000 kilometers away, yet here was something that made no sense. "Put it on the main screen," he ordered. The forward display flickered to life, showing a magnified view of the unknown vessel. What they saw made several bridge officers gasp audibly. The ship was massive, easily 3 times the length of their own dreadnought, but it looked like it had been assembled in someone's backyard. Mismatched hull plating, exposed conduits, and what appeared to be improvised armor welded directly onto the superstructure. Yet despite its ramshackle appearance, there was something undeniably purposeful about its design, as if every apparent flaw served a specific function. "Have we tried hailing them?" Zorian asked. "Standard frequencies. All Imperial channels, even the old Universal Translator protocols," replied Communications Officer Vex. No response. "They're not ignoring us, Admiral. It's like they're not even receiving our transmissions." "Impossible. Every ship in this galaxy uses the same basic communication standards." "That's what I thought too, sir, but watch this." Manipulated his controls, and the tactical display showed their communication beam hitting the unknown vessel and simply passing through it. Not absorbed, not reflected, just ignored entirely. Zorian stood from his command chair, his 7-foot frame casting a long shadow across the bridge. "Tactical analysis?" Lieutenant Commander Prax, the ship's weapons officer, was already running. "Diagnostics." "Sir, I'm not detecting any obvious weapon systems, but that doesn't mean much. Half of what I'm seeing shouldn't be possible with the materials they're using. If I didn't know better, I'd say someone took scrap metal and somehow turned it into advanced technology. Contact the escort cruisers. I want them to move into flanking positions but maintain a respectful distance. If whoever is flying that thing wanted to attack us, they probably would have done it by now." The 2 Zephyrian light cruisers, Swift, Strike and Nebula's Edge, gracefully moved into position, their sleek hulls gleaming against the starfield. Compared to the unknown vessel, they looked like works of art, all flowing curves and integrated systems, the pinnacle of Imperial engineering. For 20 minutes, the 3 Imperial ships maintained their formation, while the mysterious vessel continued on its original course, seemingly oblivious to their presence. Then, without warning, everything changed. The unknown ship stopped. Not slowed down, not changed course. It simply stopped moving instantaneously, as if inertia was merely a suggestion it chose to ignore. "That's impossible," Tess whispered. "Nothing that size can stop that fast without tearing itself apart." A low harmonic tone began resonating through the stellar dominion's hull, felt more than heard. The ship's lights flickered briefly, and several non-essential systems momentarily went offline. "What was that?" Zorian demanded. "Unknown, sir. Some kind of scanning beam, but unlike anything in our databases. It felt like something was looking directly through our hull, examining every component." Before anyone could respond, the tactical display erupted in warnings. The Swift Strike and Nebula's Edge had both gone completely dark. Not destroyed, not disabled. Simply turned off like someone had flipped a switch. "Get me a status report on those cruisers immediately." "All systems appear functional, Admiral. But they're not responding to any commands. It's like their crews just stopped." Zorian felt ice forming in his veins. In all his years of service, he had never seen anything that could simply turn off an Imperial warship without leaving so much as a scorch mark on the hull. The unknown vessel began moving again, this time directly toward the stellar dominion. As it approached, details became clearer on the main screen. The ship's surface was covered in what looked like improvised modifications, additional sensor arrays bolted to the hull, weapon mounts that appeared to be retrofitted from industrial equipment, and strange geometric patterns etched into the metal that seemed to pulse with faint light. "Admiral," Vex called out, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. "I'm receiving a transmission, but it's not coming through any of our communication systems. It's somehow being projected directly into our computer core." "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at a face that made the entire bridge fall silent. It was humanoid, but not like any species in Imperial records. The being had pale skin, short dark hair, and eyes that seemed to hold depths of intelligence and experience that made Zorian feel young, despite his decades of life. Most disturbing of all, the face looked familiar in a way that touched some genetic memory buried deep in the Zephyrian consciousness. "Greetings," the being said, its voice calm and measured. "I am Captain Elena Voss of the Terran resistance ship Prometheus. We need to talk." The word Terran hit the bridge like a physical blow. Every Zephyrian child learned about the Terrans in their history classes, the primitive species that had been discovered 3 centuries ago on the 3rd planet of a yellow star system. They were violent, chaotic, and refused to accept Imperial guidance. When they began developing space travel, the Empire had been forced to intervene. The official record stated that the Terran homeworld had been sterilized to prevent the spread of their aggressive tendencies to other systems. "Impossible," Zorian breathed. "The Terrans were eliminated 300 years ago." Elena Voss smiled, and there was something in that expression that made the Admiral's blood run cold. "Eliminated? Is that what your history books tell you? Admiral Zorian, your empire has been living a lie for 3 centuries. We didn't die. We adapted. We evolved. And we've been watching you ever since." The transmission continued, but now the Ike background behind Captain Voss became visible. The bridge of the Prometheus was a study in controlled chaos. Jury-rigged control stations manned by beings that were clearly human, but somehow different from the primitive Terrans of historical record. They moved with fluid precision, their hands dancing across control surfaces that seemed to respond to thought as much as touch. "You want proof that humanity survived?" Voss asked. "Your escort cruisers are currently experiencing what we call a gentle sleep. Their crews are unharmed, but their ship systems are under our control. We could have destroyed them, Admiral, but that's not why we're here." "What do you want?" Zorian managed to ask. "Justice, accountability, and most importantly, the truth." Voss leaned forward, her eyes boring into the camera. "For 3 centuries, your empire has told itself that humanity was a threat that had to be eliminated. You've used our supposed aggression to justify a dozen other genocides, to conquer and subjugate species across the galaxy. But we know the real reason you tried, to destroy us." The tactical display suddenly came alive with new contacts, dozens of them, appearing throughout the system as if they had been invisible until that moment. Each contact showed the same ramshackle, improvised design as the Prometheus, but the power signatures were staggering. "We were the first species you encountered that couldn't be intimidated, couldn't be bought, and refused to bow to your supposed superiority," Voss continued. "We looked at your perfect empire and saw it for what it really was, a house of cards built on fear and maintained through brutality. So you decided to make an example of us. The Terran system was a threat to galactic stability, Zorian said, falling back on official doctrine even as doubt gnawed at his certainty. No, Admiral. We were an inconvenient truth. We proved that your empire wasn't inevitable, wasn't natural, and certainly wasn't superior, so you tried to erase us from history. The bridge of the stellar dominion had become eerily quiet, every officer hanging on the conversation between their admiral and this impossible ghost from the past. But here's what your empire never understood about humanity, Voss said, her voice growing stronger. We don't just adapt to survive. We thrive in adversity. You scattered us to the stars thinking that would be the end of us. Instead, you gave us the entire galaxy as our hiding place. New information began flowing across the Imperial ship's displays. Star charts showing hidden human settlements, resource extraction operations, and construction facilities scattered throughout supposedly empty space. Hundreds of worlds that Imperial surveys had marked as uninhabitable were revealed to be thriving human colonies. We learned to live in the places you wouldn't look, inside asteroid fields, on the dark sides of tidally locked worlds, in the atmospheres of gas giants. We studied your technology, reverse-engineered it, and improved upon it. While your empire grew fat and complacent, we became something you never expected. What? Zorian asked, though he dreaded the answer. Elena Voss's smile became predatory. We became better than you. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Around them, the display showed nearly 50 human vessels surrounding the Imperial formation, each one broadcasting the same impossible energy signature as the Prometheus. Admiral, Tess said quietly, I'm receiving priority communications from Imperial Command. They're reporting similar encounters across all border sectors. The humans, they're everywhere. Zorian sank back into his command chair, his mind reeling from the implications. If what Captain Voss said was true, then the Empire's entire understanding of galactic history was wrong. More than that, they were facing an enemy that had spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. Sir, Vex called out. I'm receiving another transmission. This one is being broadcast on all Imperial frequencies simultaneously. The main screen lit up again, but this time it showed not just Elena Voss but dozens of human faces. Men and women of various ages and ethnicities, all wearing the same calm expression of absolute confidence. People of the Zephyrian Empire, they spoke in unison, their voices creating a harmonic resonance that seemed to reach into the soul. We are humanity. We are the children of Earth, the survivors of your genocide, and the inheritors of the stars you thought you owned. We have returned not as conquerors, but as judges. The time of reckoning has begun. Humanity's return, the Imperial Council chambers on Zephyria Prime had never seen such chaos. Representatives from across the Empire shouted over each other, their scaled faces flushed with fear and anger, as holographic displays showed human vessels appearing in every sector of Imperial space. What had started as isolated encounters 12 hours ago had become a galaxy-wide phenomenon. Admiral Zorian stood before the assembled council, his uniform bearing the scorch marks and stress wrinkles of a commander who had witnessed the impossible. The stellar dominion had been allowed to return to Imperial space with a message, while the mysterious human ships had simply vanished as quickly as they had appeared. They want what? Demanded High Chancellor Vextar, his ancient voice cracking with disbelief. A full accounting, Zorian repeated. Every world conquered, every species enslaved or eliminated, every act of aggression committed in the empires. Name over the past 3 centuries. They call it the Reckoning. Counselor Thrain slammed her clawed hand against her speaking podium. This is insanity. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We don't negotiate with primitives. With respect, Counselor, Zorian said carefully. These are no longer the primitive Terrans of our historical records. What I witnessed out there defies every tactical and technological assumption we've based our supremacy on. The main chamber display activated, showing recorded footage from the Stellar Dominion's encounter. The assembled politicians watched, in stunned silence, as the human vessel effortlessly disabled 2 Imperial cruisers without firing a single visible weapon. "How is this possible?" asked Science Advisor Quell, her analytical mind struggling to process what she was seeing. "Our intelligence reports clearly stated that Terra was sterilized centuries ago." "That's exactly what Captain Voss addressed," Zorian replied. "According to her, we destroyed the planet's surface ecosystem, but significant portions of the human population had already evacuated to hidden colonies throughout the system. When we left, assuming they were extinct, they emerged and began a systematic expansion into the galaxy." "Impossible. Our long-range sensors would have detected them." "Would they?" A new voice cut through the chamber, calm and measured. Every head turned to see Elena Voss materializing in the center of the council floor. Not a hologram, but a solid projection that seemed to exist in 3-dimensional space. Panic erupted as security guards rushed forward, only to watch their energy weapons pass harmlessly through the human captain's form. She stood calmly in the center of the chaos, waiting for the commotion to die down. "How are you here?" High Chancellor Vexitar demanded. "The same way we've been here for 3 centuries, Voss replied. "You see, Chancellor, your empire made a fundamental error when you attempted to eliminate humanity. You assumed we would think like you in terms of territory, dominance, and control. Instead, we thought like humans, in terms of adaptation, cooperation, and survival." The projection gestured, and the chamber's displays came alive with images that made the assembled politicians gasp. Vast cities carved into the hearts of asteroids, agricultural colonies thriving in the upper atmospheres of gas giants, mining operations extracting resources from the cores of dead worlds, all hidden in places Imperial surveys had deemed impossible or worthless. "We didn't just survive your genocide attempt," Voss continued. "We used it as an opportunity to become something greater. Every world you marked as uninhabitable became our home. Every empty system became our sanctuary. We learned to live in the spaces between your stars, in the shadows your empire cast." Counselor Thrain found her voice. "Even if this is true, you're still primitives with scavenged technology. The Empire controls 1,000 worlds." Elena's smile was sharp as a blade. "Do you? Let me show you something." The displays shifted now, showing real-time feeds from across the Empire. On Zephyria Prime itself, human figures moved through Imperial facilities, not as invaders, but as people who belonged there. Maintenance workers, technical specialists, even administrative staff, all revealed to be human agents who had been operating under deep cover. "For 3 centuries we've been among you," Voss explained. "We learned your languages, studied your culture, and integrated ourselves into your society. Every major Imperial facility has been infiltrated. Every strategic decision you've made has been observed and recorded. We know your strengths, your weaknesses, and most importantly, your crimes." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. If humans had been operating within Imperial space for centuries, then every military secret, every tactical advantage, every supposedly secure communication had been compromised. "What do you want from us?" High Chancellor Vexitar asked, his ancient voice suddenly sounding very tired. "Justice," Elena replied simply. "Not revenge, not conquest, but accountability. Your empire has committed genocide against 17 species over the past 3 centuries. You've enslaved entire worlds, strip-mined civilizations, and justified it all by claiming superiority and manifest destiny." New images appeared on the displays. Worlds reduced to barren wasteland, species driven to extinction, civilizations erased from history. Each one was documented with Imperial records, military reports, and survivor testimonies that the humans had somehow preserved. "We've spent 3 centuries gathering evidence, documenting every crime, recording every atrocity. We know about the plague bombs used on Kepler 442b. We know about the forced labor camps on the Andromeda's colonies. We know about the research facilities where you conducted experiments on sentient beings." Admiral Zorian felt his blood run cold. Many of those operations had been classified at the highest levels, known only to a handful of senior officials. The fact that the humans possessed such detailed information meant their intelligence network was far more extensive than anyone had imagined. "You're threatening the stability of the entire galaxy," Counselor Thrain protested. "The Empire maintains order. Without our guidance, these systems would descend into chaos." "Order?" Elena's laugh was bitter. "You call systematic oppression order? You call genocide stability? No, Counselor. What you've created isn't order. It's a prison where an entire galaxy lives in fear of disappointing their jailers." The projection moved closer to the assembled politicians, and several of them instinctively backed away despite knowing she couldn't physically harm them. "But here's what's truly remarkable about humanity," she continued. "Despite everything your empire did to us, despite the attempted genocide and centuries of hiding, we haven't come here for revenge. We've come here to offer you something your empire has never given anyone else." "What?" Vexitar asked. "A choice." The displays changed again, now showing technical schematics and star charts that made no immediate sense to the assembled Zephyrians. "For 3 centuries, while your empire stagnated in arrogance and complacency, humanity has been advancing. We've developed technologies you can't imagine, discovered scientific principles your best minds haven't even theorized. We've learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level, to travel between dimensions, to communicate across space and time instantaneously." As if to demonstrate, the projection suddenly multiplied, becoming dozens of Elena Vosses speaking in perfect synchronization. "We are no longer bound by the limitations of individual consciousness. We've developed what we call the collective, a voluntary network that allows human minds to share knowledge, experience, and wisdom across any distance. We are still individuals, but we are also something greater." The multiple projections merged back into one, and Elena's expression became almost gentle. "We could destroy your empire in a matter of hours," she said softly. "Your ships, your worlds, your entire civilization, all of it could be erased as easily as you tried to erase us. But that would make us no better than you." "Then what do you propose?" Admiral Zorian asked, speaking for the first time since the projection had appeared. "Transformation. Your empire will be dissolved, but not through conquest or destruction. Instead, every world will be given the right to self-determination. Species that were conquered will be liberated. Worlds that were enslaved will be freed. And those who committed crimes against sentient beings will face justice." "You're talking about the complete destruction of galactic civilization," Vextar protested. "No, Chancellor. We're talking about the beginning of galactic civilization. True civilization based on cooperation rather than domination, growth rather than exploitation, justice rather than might." Elena gestured again, and the displays showed something that took everyone's breath away, a vision of the galaxy as it could be. Worlds thriving in harmony, species sharing knowledge and resources, technology used to elevate rather than oppress. "This is what humanity has built in the shadows, while your empire rotted from within," she said. "A true galactic community where every sentient being has the right to exist, to grow, to reach their full potential. We're offering you the chance to be part of that future." "And if we refuse?" Counselor Thrain asked. Elena's expression became stone cold. "Then you'll face the consequences of 3 centuries of crimes against sentience. Every species you've wronged, every world you've conquered, every life you've destroyed, they all deserve justice. We can offer you transformation and redemption, or we can step aside and let your victims have their day of reckoning." The chamber fell into absolute silence as the weight of her words sank in. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for 3 centuries, was being offered a choice: evolve or face the consequences of their actions. "How long do we have to decide?" Admiral Zorian asked. "The choice is happening now," Elena replied. "Across the galaxy, every Imperial facility is being simultaneously contacted by human representatives. Every enslaved world is being offered liberation. Every conquered species is being given the opportunity to reclaim their freedom. You can either guide this transition peacefully or watch it happen around you." As if summoned by her words, reports began flooding into the chamber. From across the empire, slave colonies were declaring independence. Conquered worlds were rising in rebellion. Imperial garrisons were surrendering to human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. "This is madness," Thrain shouted. "You're destroying millions of years of progress." "No," Elena said firmly. "We're ending millions of years of oppression. The question now is whether the Zephyrian people will choose to be part of the solution or continue to be part of the problem." High Chancellor Vextar looked around the chamber at his fellow politicians, seeing fear, anger, and confusion in their faces. Then he looked at the displays showing the galaxy in transformation, species reclaiming their freedom, worlds celebrating their liberation. "What guarantees do we have?" he asked quietly. "How do we know this won't just be one form of tyranny, replacing another?" Elena's projection smiled, and for the first time there was genuine warmth in the expression. "Because, Chancellor, that's not who humanity is. We've had the power to conquer this galaxy for decades, but conquest was never our goal. We want partners, not subjects. We want a community of equals, not an empire of slaves." She paused, looking directly at each of the assembled leaders. "Your empire taught us many things during those dark centuries after you tried to destroy us. It taught us the value of freedom by taking it away. It taught us the importance of justice by denying it to so many. Most importantly, it taught us that true strength comes not from dominating others but from lifting them up." The projection began to fade, but Elena's voice remained strong and clear. "The age of empires is ending, whether you participate or not. The question is, will the Zephyrian people choose to be part of building something better, or will they cling to the ashes of something that was always doomed to fall?" As the projection disappeared entirely, the chamber was left in stunned silence. Outside, through the great windows of the council hall, they could see ships in the sky, not invading vessels, but human craft extending their hands in offer of partnership to anyone willing to take them. Admiral Zorian looked at his fellow council members and made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "I believe," he said quietly, "it's time for the Zephyrian Empire to choose evolution over extinction." The transformation had begun, and humanity, scarred but not broken, scattered but not defeated, was finally coming home to a galaxy they would help rebuild into something worthy of all its children.